Okay, I think we are ready to start. Hope everyone is ready. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Students Guide section, where we will discuss sustainable development, CSR, and HR practices in organizations. My name is Irina Shanaeva. I am a head of Sustainable Marketing Department in Redmi Marketing Agency, and I'll be the moderator of this section. First, I'd like to remind you some of the rules of our online section. The one speaker rule especially applies to the online broadcasts, so please disable your microphones until it's your turn to speak, and please disable your video so our traffic is not overloaded. You are very welcome to ask any questions, so please don't hesitate to write them to the chat. And please remember that we are speaking English at this conference, so we expect your questions to be in English too. We also welcome any discussions, but please remember we don't argue, but we share our points of view and our different experiences. So if you want to share yours, please write about it to the chat so we could give you the right time for this. We are going to have two experts at our session today. Andrei Shahbazov, Professor of Human Resources in IBS and a representative of Association of Russian Managers, and Anna Zyryanova, who also teaches Human Resources at IBS and is HR Director of A1 Investment Company and co-founder of remote job search service Work at Home, and also co-founder and CEO at Self Mama. Dear experts, hope you hear us well, and we look forward to your opinions and thoughts about our today's hypothesis. We were, as you know, to discuss the phenomenon of climate change in organizations today, but due to the last events, we've decided to fasten our discussion to sustainability. That is actually a wider issue than ecology and environment. But as I discovered just a few days ago, those businesses who had climate crisis scenarios in their policies were able to cope with this acute COVID-19 crisis much better than the others. So we can actually see that the climate change is a big deal of organizations' financial sustainability now. Nevertheless, we are eager to look upon different challenges that organizations currently face, and we will also try to predict what skills will be able to ensure sustainability not only for organizations, but also for individuals, for all of us. So if everyone is ready, I'd like to begin with some data that will explain why businesses go sustainable and why social impact and CSR became so important for the past few years. I'm going to share the presentation of our session with you. So, as I've already said, my name is Irina Shanaeva, and I'm head of sustainable marketing in a marketing agency, Redmi. And we are going to look upon some reasons why organizations go sustainable. So the two main forces that affect businesses' decision in sustainability are the millennials and the homelanders, or as we also know them, the Y and Z generations. These generations require their love marks, their brands they trust, and the brands they love to be social responsible and are ready to pay more for the brands that have some social impact and that support causes they believe, and also they are ready to switch from the beloved brands to another's that are more social responsible as they think. And of course, these generations require their employers to be responsible. and to have some social impact in the environments and societies, communities that they work in. As you can see from the data, actually the Gen Z really doesn't understand and sees no reasons for sparing their time and money for any brands and companies who don't have any social responsibility in their core. And of course, the Sustainable Development Goals, or as we know it, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that was adopted by all UN members in 2015, became another driver for companies to go sustainable. And as governments all over the world pay more attention and even regulatory measures for this issue, businesses put more effort to make an impact to match sustainable development goals. And our speakers will tell us today about some HR and CSR practices of companies to meet these goals. Now, to sum up everything I've said earlier, I want to look upon some trends of 2019 in social impact that, of course, affect companies' 2020 agenda of social responsibility. As I've already said, consumers and employees have to expect brands and their leaders to weigh in on important social issue. So it's no longer to go sustainable just for PR and not to really support any issues. The second trend was created by a Gen Z representative, Greta Thunberg. She has become the face of climate change and was named Times 2019 Person of the Year. And employee engagement continues to rise. And actually, companies are very ecstatic about it. And several of our speakers will explain why further in our session. Equality joins its cousins diversity and inclusion in the spotlight. Equality in pay is one of the top trends in corporate social responsibility, and the Me Too movement was a big driver of this trend. And of course, CSR will take on even greater importance for attracting and retain Gen Z as employees, because Gen Z is even more than millennials. Expects companies to make a social impact. And the last but not the least, the sustainability itself. As you can see from the slide, companies try to reduce their environmental impact and ecological footprint, and so they reduce plastic and reduce their footprint to attract more employees and more consumers of Gen Z and of millennials. And now, I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, Ilya Ryzhov. Ilya, please tell us about your overview of the company's practices of sustainability.
Yes, hello everyone, and first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ilya Ryzhov, and I'm a fourth student of IBS. And first of all, I'd like to thank for such an opportunity. I'm honored to be here and to discuss such an important topic despite the current circumstances in the world and our online format. Please, next slide. I'd like to familiarize you with my agenda. Firstly, I start talking about employees' engagement, why it is important nowadays, and how it can influence on business. Secondly, I'll move on to sustainability, and I'll emphasize 3 essential reasons to be sustainable. And I'll try to make a link between these 2 terms and even try to describe how engagement could help to organize sustainable processes. Then I'll move on to practical aspects and give some tips for business how to implement sustainability. And finally, I'll tell you about Unilever's Sustainable Living Plan. Now I'm ready to start with engagement. Please, next. Yes. The American Institute Gallup did a lot of research about engagement, and according to their survey, they found out that in every organization, there are approximately just 29% of truly engaged employees. More than a half are not engaged, and about 20% are actively disengaged. What does it mean? The last group of employees, actively disengaged. They don't like their job, they get bored, they suffer from working and even from being in the job. They don't generate any beneficial ideas for business, and in brief, they are an useless ballast for business. They are just physically present at their working place, but not mentally. Either we are talking about not engaged group, they could be productive, they could be creative, also they could do their job well, but their heart and their thoughts are anywhere but not at the job. They perform well, but they don't care about the common deal. They are not psychologically present at the job. And the last engaged employees, they are truly enthusiastic, they are eager to take initiatives, to take risks, and they're really concerned about the success of the business and common deal. So who are engaged employees? I can say that they possess three main qualities. The first of them is loyalty. They engaged employees don't leave the company for a better place, or if they get more attractive offer, they are committed to their place, mentally, psychologically, physically. Proactivity, they act beforehand. The story when you need the job done yesterday is about them. They don't wait for an order, they themselves always try to optimize all processes. And the basic need to become engaged is satisfaction. It means that employees are satisfied with their salary, with their position, with their promotion, career development, and all other aspects. Well, before I go further, I'd like to say that engagement could be described with three words: stay, talk, and act. Engaged workers stay with the company, they will tell their friends about their job, and they act to make their job beneficial. And I can say that engagement is the most effective and, frankly speaking, the most complicated way to sustain constant development. And now I'd like to bring up the subject of sustainability. Please, next slide. And I'd like to mention three main global factors why it is so important nowadays to be sustainable. There are social, environmental, and economic issues. As for social reason, population is growing, and every year population is growing on 83 millions of people on average. Life expectancy is also increasing. So every year it becomes harder and harder to provide everyone with the necessary conditions. As for environmental reason, I say just few words: climate change, pandemic, coronavirus, and limited resources. Such challenges force people to make actions, otherwise people cease to be viable. And economic reason, business should be profitable, should make money and provide people with the goods and services. Business will not be beneficial if it can't cope with such challenges. And in my opinion, if employers and employees are engaged, truly engaged, so it could be a positive way out. And now I'd like to tell how business could become sustainable. Please, next. And first, my tip is to redefine your strategy and implement sustainability into it. I'll tell how to do that later when I'll be talking about Unilever. Second, stay innovative. Well, if you are sustainable, you are innovative because you are always thinking how to optimize processes and make life better. Third, inform your employees about everything what's going on in organization. It has a positive impact on engagement rate. Fourth, choose your suppliers wisely, and actually not only suppliers, but partners and other business partners. You have got to assure them to use less natural resources and use renewable ones. It leads to reduce operation costs by 45% according to statistics. And fifth, form non-financial reports. The research showed that 89% of investors considered non-financial reports essential, and while making decisions, invest or not to invest, they rely on such reports. And finally, I'd like to tell you about the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. Please, next. Yes, in 2010 and even before this year, Unilever formed a new strategy, and they had three big goals. The first one is improving health and well-being for more than 1 billion people by 2020, and I can say that they are successfully achieved this goal by this year. The second goal was reducing environmental impact by half by 2030. And about this goal, they are really going to achieve this goal because improvements in eco-efficiency have contributed to cumulative cost avoidance of over 600 million euros in energy since 2008. And the last goal was sorry, I didn't see the presentation. The last goal was enhancing livelihoods for millions. By 2020, Unilever will enhance the livelihoods of millions of people as they grow our business. And I can say that these goals they already achieved because sorry, I have some problems with connection. Well, they achieved this goal because by the end of 2080, 56% of their agricultural raw materials were sustainably sourced. And now I finished. Well, if you have some questions, I'm ready. I'm open to answer.
Okay, thank you for your overview. My question is, do you think sustainability should be adopted only by companies and organizations, or it is important to engage individuals in reaching sustainable development goals?
Well, I think surely sustainability isn't concerned only companies, it concerns everyone, and if just companies will implement such sustainable practices into their business process, it will not help. If if we want to be sustainable, everyone should contribute something to this sustainability program. If everyone will not take care of nature and only companies, it will not help. If we will not fight with poverty and only companies do, it will not help. It concerns everybody.
Thank you. What are your practices as an individual to reach any sustainable development goals?
Well, it's a tricky question, actually. Okay.
Okay, think about it. Thank you. Dear colleagues, if you have any questions, and dear experts especially, if you have any questions to Ilya, please don't hesitate to ask them now. Anna, please.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Ilya, for your presentation. It was very interesting. about to know about the Unilever. And what do you think? I saw that it was a very nice design slide, and I think that lots of different designers from Unilever was working on it. Can you please explain me what do you think how all this policy in your company will change because of the coronavirus? What is your opinion? Thank you.
How policy changed because of coronavirus? I understand correctly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Is it going to change or not?
Surely, and I have some experience in IT recruitment, and I can say that a lot of IT startups can't cope with such situation with coronavirus if they done to go online, because a lot of practices nowadays go online and try to survive somehow. That's why, and coronavirus, it's kind of a challenge for such companies. Do they can go online if they can some business processes go online, and they will survive after such situation. If they can't do that, well, they can't be profitable. And the coronavirus is kind of changed to go online.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear listeners, please share your own sustainable practices in your everyday life in the chat with us. We are going to move on. Our next topic is that is so acute in current situation, yeah? Employees' health and well-being. We can see that health value turned out the most important factor for companies these days. Our next speakers will introduce us to the company's HR practices about the health and well-being of employees before the pandemic. We have two speakers on this topic, Elizabeth and Polina. And Elizabeth will be the first. Elizabeth, please take your time, and I'm going to show the presentation.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Erko, and I'm a fourth-year student of HR department of IBS RANEPA. Today, I'm going to present the topic engagement of employees as an emotional dimension of sustainability of business, and I'm going to speak not only from the perspective of the student, but also addressing some of my experience being HR assistant in an international company. So my presentation will go as follows. I'll start by saying why and how engagement is related to sustainability. Then we'll go through some ideas why businesses need sustainability and how it can be achieved through engagement of employees. And later, the main purpose of my presentation is how we can create workplace excellence in order to stimulate higher engagement of employees. Next slide, please. So I'll start by saying why and how social responsibility is related through the people performance. We see some dimensions of social responsibilities on the slide, and one of them is talent retention, which I would like to focus on today. And some points to address for the company are diversity and inclusion, transparency and honesty, communication, autonomy, empowering leadership, recognition, and learning culture. As Ilya already mentioned, these factors are greatly influencing the engagement of people at the workplace, and no employer today should forget about those. And it is silly to think that we can only strive for financial results and forget about such important bottom line as people, because more and more organizations nowadays realize that human resources is their biggest asset and value, which differentiate them from competitors and help to achieve winning strategies. Next slide, please. So why engagement matters? The fact is that the perception of sustainability should not be limited only to ecological issues, such as global warming, carbon emissions, protection of the environment. And emotional and psychological impact of the business should also be treated as a point of concern for many employers globally. This being said, we see that ever-growing pace of development of the modern world is increasing, and the pressure on people at the workplace promotes emotional instability, insecurity, leads to stress and depression, which is a big risk for the health, well-being, and not even speaking about productivity and burning out. Engaged employees, according to the research of agency Tower Watson, can help to increase by 26% revenue per employee for the companies. And being business students, we all clearly understand that any point of business is to make money and to make profit. But what has changed now in the modern world is that it's not the way to achieve it is not to juice the maximum out of the people. It's creating the ecosystem and environment for them to perform at their best. So some of the reasons why companies need engagement is that engaged employees are more productive, as I already said. Hay Group states that the offices with engaged employees were as much as 43% more productive than the others. Second, engaged employees have higher retention rates, so they stay longer with the company. And as we, as HR people know, that it costs a lot to hire a new person to run through all the adaptation, and it's up to 40% of the losses of the business impact for the first 2 months of the performance of the new employees. Thirdly, engaged employees are more innovative and they can bring more ideas. And as it was mentioned by me before, that nowadays it's a big asset of business since we're living in the age of information, and new ideas with creative people and employees can help businesses to strive. Then engaged employees offer better customer service, which is greatly important, as we heard it earlier, that Generation Y and Generation Z are building loyalty very quick, and they also lose them very quick. And it's very important to have a great customer service so that we stay longer with the companies. And to sum up, I said engaged employees are more profitable. We are not forgetting that as an HR people, we are there to support business, and we must focus on stimulating our people to perform at their best to help businesses grow. Next slide, please. So this is 8 proven strategies to workplace excellence. This is partially related to my bachelor thesis topic, because I truly believe that nowadays people love to not only get the profits out of the company, such as corporate cars, bonuses, and etc. It's also very important that the companies treat their people as the greatest human resource and creating ecosystem for developing for them, because we, especially as millennials, we like learning, and the concept of lifelong learning is actual as never. So employers should focus on stimulating their employees to learn and creating the right environment for that. So let me quickly go through some of the points. So first, it's very important to communicate the right information at the right time, because when people don't know what's going on, they feel lost. And as the engagement survey we run through coronavirus situation nowadays in our company show that people appreciate greatly the constant communication. So we decided that as an HR, especially in this tough situation, we would like to make communication every Monday and Friday to people, saying what is happening to our business, how the situation is affecting our profits, and saying about some future prospects if we can have it. Then the next point is ensuring the fit. Many consulting companies nowadays, they have fit tests, and they test employees not only for professional competences, but also for how fit they're for the corporate culture, because having right people at the right place is a big success for the company. Then I'll skip some points because I think I'm running out of time. Employers should stimulate the teamwork, because we all know that the synergy principle, that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it's actually more. And it's very important to promote proper teamwork and cross-departmental communication in order to stimulate people to work creatively and achieve the goals together. And the next point, collaboration, is related to that also. 8th point is loyalty and trust. As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, it costs a lot to hire new people and to run the adaptation process. So it's very great for the companies if they can achieve the retention and let their people stay and value their brand. So this is all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Elizabeth. In fact, you have several more minutes if you want to discuss the points you've skipped, or we will we will discuss them after the second speaker, as you wish.
I don't have anything to add. I think it was enough.
Okay, thank you so much. Then continuing the topic, I want to pass the baton to Polina. Polina, will you please?
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Polina Kosareva. I'm a student of 4th year of IBS RANEPA, and I would like to introduce you a topic, employee well-being programs as a way to make business sustainable. Next slide, please. So to give you a clear understanding what a workplace well-being is, I would like to present you some examples of what companies do in their well-being programs. Workplace well-being covers both physical and mental state of an employee, and physical state is covered by environment and physical well-being. Environment well-being is mostly about biophilic elements in the office. For example, the access to natural light, a perfect temperature in the office, and also a lot of plants all around the office. As for physical well-being, it is aimed at some healthcare insurances and of course on sports. So a lot of companies now, they introduce some in-house sports, for example, yoga at office, maybe some cycling at office. And also they can pay for the gym abonnement for the employee. As for mental state of an employee, it is covered by psychological and social well-being. Psychological well-being is aimed at such programs as stress prevention, some psychologists at the office, paid holidays every year, some maybe additional paid holidays, and well, the last point is social well-being. It's mostly about relationships between people, between colleagues, and now companies, they implement maybe some training programs where colleagues can do some cases together and they can communicate and know each other better, and some volunteering where they can get together and also help the society. Next slide, please. So why well-being programs are so essential for companies? Here you can see all the surveys which I found, which state clearly that they are really important. But I'm gonna name only, I believe, the most striking points. Like, for example, 40% of American workers say that their jobs are very or extremely stressful. And 26% of employees say that they're very often burnt out. Also, according to Deloitte's Millennial Survey, a majority of millennials in the ages between 19 and 30, they report they do not expect to be happier than their parents. So it's very, we know that job takes maybe 80% of our time. And it's very sad that most of the millennials, they think that they will not be happier and they will not be happier at work. Next slide, please. Also, a very important survey was held by Gallup University and CDC. that good employee well-being is leading not only to employee happiness, but also to increasing profits of the company through higher employee engagement, lower turnover, better customer service, and lower healthcare costs. And obviously, taking care of employee physical and mental health, as well as their stress levels, can make business much more sustainable, because sustainability is not only about environment, but of course also about the society, and employees of the companies are a very important part of the society. So taking care of them and implementing well-being programs can make a company more sustainable. Next slide, please. Here is a survey which was made by Deloitte company. It's about well-being, what companies really do, and what employees want from them. So this like blue is stating what employees want to see in their well-being programs at companies, and it can be seen clearly that employers, they don't even know what their employees want, and they implement much less than employees state that they really need. For example, rarely there is mental health counseling in companies, healthy snacks, and designed office space for wellness. Next slide, please. And now I'm gonna present you three exemplary companies. First one is Danone, a famous FMCG company. Danone implemented DenCares program. It's a medical coverage for more significant health-related risks. Also, what employees really like in their well-being program is fresh bottled water, yogurts, and fresh fruit, which are distributed around the office. Also, weekly team sports like football and netball. What's important, Danone also takes care of not only employees but their families. So the support of parents includes parental leaves, possibility to ask questions to experts, support in finding childcare services, some webinars, and so on. And the last point of their program is Health at Work program. It's a health and wellness program which is about which is aiming at well-being employees' healthy habits, so that they really care about themselves not only at the office but also in their everyday life. And as we can see, Danone is aimed at sustainable development goal number 3, which is about good health and well-being. And they state it on their website. Next slide, please. So the next company I would like to tell you about is Facebook, a famous.
I'm sorry, please. Someone is having some noises.
Yeah, now I cannot see the slide.
Yeah, I'm just checking whose microphones are on, so
Yeah.
no one could bother us anymore. So, okay, I'm sorry. We are going to continue, please.
Thank you. What I really like about Facebook Wellbeing Program is that they give to their employees 25 free therapy sessions. They really care about mental health. Some on-site health and dental centers and laundry services, so it's quite cool also. 17 weeks of parental leave policy available to both men and women. Also support for family planning, including adoption and surrogacy assistance, and baby cash to help the newborn expenses. So as we can see, they, as well as Danone, they care a lot about families of employees. A 30-day paid break every 5 years, and a cool bonus about on-site canteen with variety of healthy foods. Next slide, please. And as for an example of Russian company, which has like a very different from foreign competitors, from foreign companies' well-being program. But yes, still, it's one of the examples for Russian companies. It's Sberbank. It implements medical healthcare services for its employees. They also do some on-site celebrations for them. They take care of employees by implementing flexible hours. Also, they organize paid trips, not only for employees, but for their families, and a paid maternity leave. And next slide, please. So now, after you've heard the examples of foreign companies and a Russian company, I have a problem to discuss. So what's the ability of Russian companies to implement the well-being programs in their strategies? Are they really able to do that? I will be first maybe to state my opinion on this problem, and then I will pass the word to my colleagues.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. As far as I'm concerned, Russian companies will be able to state maybe some well-being programs, but only in some years. And that's because, firstly, Russian companies need to take care of some basic problems which are currently bigger. For example, transparency of processes, because not all Russian companies have transparent processes. Also staff turnover, because in some companies it can be quite high. And maybe some issues with salary. Not all the workers get paid regularly. Not all the workers are paid more than maybe the average market salary. Sometimes it's quite lower. So at first, I believe Russian companies should solve such problems, as I mentioned before, and then they can focus on well-being programs. Thank you. And now I will pass the word to my colleague Lisa Irko. Probably she has something to say.
Elizabeth, please.
Thank you, Polina. I think your answer was very extensive. I don't have a lot to add from my side, but I would like to address the part of the question which relates to our mentality and the perception of well-being from the Russian side. I truly believe that we are not very different from our European or American or other foreign colleagues in some way, especially now in the modern environment. But what I think is the problem is that some of our people are treating this well-being programs and extra initiatives as extra. And as Polina said, that how we can skip the base and go to the top and speak about such high-end, I think, programs of HR, while not every basic problem is fixed. And on the other hand, from my personal experience, from what I see at work, when I started speaking about engagement and creating workplace excellence and doing some initiatives mentioned in my presentation, I saw that, of course, the majority of people are facing this with enthusiasm, but there are some people who say, why we need that? We're here just to work. Don't invent anything else. Why do we need to do that? We don't have time. Let's work. We must work. I understand this attitude. It comes from learning and being taught that we must work and we must focus on what we are doing, not to distract on anything else. But I think that Russian companies will follow up on that very soon, especially due to globalization and that all the trends penetrate throughout the borders with the internet super easily.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Absolutely.
Thank you, girls, for your such interesting points, and thank you once more for explaining our audience my point from the beginning, why companies go so ecstatic on employees engaging. And really, as far as I can hear you, your point of why well-being problems are not priority in Russian companies is about that they don't think that well-being programs and the third sustainable development goal is basic. But from my point of view, health and mental health are really some basic need. And maybe we have such a gap in well-being programs in Russian and foreign companies for two reasons. My first hypothesis is about that big companies have extra resources and extra people to think about employees' engagement. So big companies, large companies, really have departments, big HR departments, and maybe CSR departments that think and work about this engagement. And my second hypothesis is about the generation's needs and requirements. As you know, Western generations are a bit earlier, so their homelanders and millennials are a bit elder than we are. Yes, and so as in Russia, millennials strike as the main CSR force not for such a long time. So companies have to take their time to adopt new practices and to be more flexible for new requirements and to adopt new basics. And that health and mental health are a new basic for millennials and Gen Z. So these are my points, and thank you one more time for your interesting opinion. Dear colleagues, dear experts, if you have to add something, if you have extra comments or many extra questions to these two young, beautiful ladies, please don't hesitate to ask them. Anyone? Anna, please.
Yeah. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Polina. It was very nice to see you again. So in my point of view and my experience tells me that when the company is choosing the strategy in human resource management and wealth management, there is some kind of fashion, you know, but the real reason why the company is ready to implement wealth management in human resource policy, in my point of view, is that it depends on what is how you earn money. Because if you have an intellectual business, if you earn money by the brains of your personnel, by the brain of your employees, the employees is your most expensive resource. But in our country, we have the natural resource economy. So that's why lots of Russian companies will not be able to implement wealth management because they don't need it. What do you think about it?
I can say, yeah, that I think it's totally true. Sometimes the company are aimed at like production, producing, and not on their intellectual resources. But as far as I'm concerned, Russian companies, still a lot of Russian companies are also aimed at, like, for example, intellectual capital. There are such companies as Mail.ru, Sberbank, other banks, for example, Tinkoff, and they are also mostly about human resources and how people do their work. So yes, I believe that at least they can start doing something to create this maybe more healthy atmosphere in their companies, and at least they can start and at least they can show their example. Yes, maybe this can be the best solution, the first solution to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrei, please.
Yes. I have short comments. If you compare, if you speak about Russian company, we must speak about oil and gas company and IT company, because if we speak about the sector of economy, the level of benefit, the level of well-being program is very high. If we show to Rosneft, the Rosneft have a pension program, special pension program. The same program have for oil and Gazprom, and the level of well-being in this company is very high. And in Russian, we have special document, коллективный договор. What this document implementate level of well-being program. And if we speak about well-being program, we must remember about tax policy, Russian tax policy, because very often company have problem with tax. It's shortcut. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much for this valuable point. So, dear colleagues, dear listeners, if you have any extra comments or any extra questions, please ask them now, and then we will move on. Okay, then now I'm stopping everyone's video and microphones to pass the baton to our next speaker. We're going to continue with a very interesting, from my point of view, issue that is also about health, but another that represents another sustainable development goal. So let's see what Alexandra will tell us. Alexandra, please begin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexandra Egorova. I'm the fourth year student of the Human Resources Department of IBS. And I'm going to speak about the role of CSR in company sustainable development and referring to best corporate practices, especially pointing out the dimension of HR practices and diversity and inclusion topic. Next slide, please.
Alexandra, please speak up.
Okay, I'll try to be a bit louder.
Thank you.
Well, as we know, people have the impact on the environment, and especially in sometimes they have also negative effects producing on the environment. But at the same time, we are not always ready to recognize this impact on the situation in the world. Meanwhile, this is the first step for the business and for the companies to recognize it. Because with this step, the corporate social responsibility starts actually. And I would like to emphasize that there are four main areas in which business influences the world actually. They are workplace, focusing on the human rights and the impact that working has on the employee's well-being, the topic that we just discussed. And the second one is community, meaning how the organization's activities positively or negatively affect the societies in which the companies operate. The environment, this is the third point, I believe this is not really is really obvious. Actually, it's concerned with the organization's environmental impact, the impact on the nature itself, and the marketplace point. Well, it includes areas such as the impact of the products and the services of the company, meaning supply chain issues, fair trading topics, and so forth. And here I would like to state the question, what are actually the approaches which companies use to deal with the implications of their impact? Next slide. Well, they actually vary, but most of them should be included in CSR strategy nowadays. Let me draw your attention to the most prospective ones. And the first principle that CSR today should be based on is the rethinking the processes instead of compensating the negative effects that the business has. So it's not only about some philanthropy programs, but also about the reconsidering the processes that the businesses have. And these actually corporate practices that businesses use in this regard, they can even transform business model to a really more sustainable one, to change the core business, making it really more eco-friendly and actually socially friendly. And transforming business processes and business models, they deal with implementing responsibility principles and corporate culture in corporate values, and actually involving stakeholders in creating shared value. So not only exercising corporate social responsibility principles within one organization, but also promoting this culture, sharing these values with your partners, with the community. And the final step, probably the peak of this promotion of the ideas, is becoming a leader and a role model for the business community. And luckily, nowadays, we can actually see it in the business community, especially in some business areas, like, for example, IT area. These companies are really up to date with this trend. And now I would like to emphasize the role that HR as the department, as the function, plays within the organization in promoting CSR culture. The next slide, please. Well, here we can see what HR actually can do for promoting this culture. Firstly, it deals with raising awareness about the problems, about the issues that the environment faces, and fostering the fostering this culture, the environmental and social values within one organization, as I mentioned. Some companies even exercise the practices of training their employees green skills and acquiring relevant up-to-date knowledge, well, referring to the issues that the world faces now. Finally, it's actually also about the building sustainable HR management system. And with this regard, the next slide, please. We have two, I believe, the most fashionable topics nowadays in sustainable human resources management. The first one is digital inclusion and diversity and inclusion programs. These initiatives, they promote fair and equal principles within the company and its stakeholders and the society, actually within the whole ecosystem of the business. And I'm going to elaborate on this point in the next slides, and referring to well-being management. Sorry, just a second. Thank you.
Sorry.
Referring to well-being management, we have already listened to my colleagues Well, indeed, these programs, they ensure employees, well, work-life balance, employees' health. And Paulina, I believe, has covered this topic really extensively. So I'm moving to the next slide. Yeah, and here I would like to point out that I would like to cover this topic, the diversity and inclusion topic, with regard to the people, disabled people, and actually speak a bit about the HR functions, for example, hiring and development of the employees with disabilities. And it's a well-known fact that employers hesitate to hire people with disabilities because of certain fears. And some of them are, for example, that the employee with disabilities won't be so efficient as the employees without any illnesses, without any dysfunctions. Um, Moreover, employers are also concerned about the fact that it's hard to communicate with these people because sometimes it requires some extra skills of communication and actually certain preparation. And the third point is that it's difficult to fire them, but this is a really arguable question. And well, actually, there are some other reasons, but I believe that all of these reasons, they are just biases, which can be broken down easily if the relevant information and training are provided for the employers, for the employees within the organization, and for the whole ecosystem, actually. And this is the responsibility, from my point of view, of HR department uh, uh, in medium sized companies and small companies as well, and in large enterprises, of course. And if only we deal with these biases, it becomes much easier to attract people with disabilities to work for the company and to fulfill actually one of the sustainable goals that the United Nations pointed out, and promote equality and fairness in the whole society, building this culture actually. In such a way, we, well, make the staff diverse and increase the chances to come up with innovation. We also contribute to the staff engagement because it's proved that such programs and working with people with disabilities actually can contribute to rising the staff engagement. And well, here I would like to move to the next slide and tell you about the practice that one actually famous company has. This practice is fulfilled within the project called Digital Inclusion, and I am the responsible person in this company for this project. Actually, I am an HR intern who deals with all the concerns and all the matters connected to this program. And digital inclusion is, well, the initiative that the subsidiary of SAP, really famous corporate apps producer, has. And SAP's subsidiary in Russia is committed to the culture of diversity. It has been running this program for people with disabilities for a year now, and it provides the internships for young people, for the students. Actually, this is one of the ways how companies can start contributing to the culture of fairness and equality, and it's a bit easier to start with these internship initiatives. SAP actually hires students with disabilities and offers them various challenging projects to participate in, and actually provides mentors who are ready and bodies who are ready always to help these employees to adapt. And the really important point is that the company is interested in looking for motivated students. So these people are really exceptional. This is the core the core point on which the company is really sure, because students, doesn't matter whether they are with disabilities or without, they're really eager to learn something new and to gain experience. And with this regard, people with disabilities are usually usually have the problems with finding the place to gain this experience, even from their younger age. And actually, the point that is really interesting in this program is also that the company involves partners in interns developing and attracts them to offer the further employment for these employees. So the company really contributes to their further development. And such projects are gaining popularity in the companies operating in big cities of Russia, like Moscow and St. Petersburg. SAP is actually participating in events, sharing its experience under this project. And under the motto, let's make digital world inclusive together. So the company really is concerned with the learning, with teaching the younger generation and kids the digital skills, since the core business is IT, production, IT technologies development. The company is interested in developing the next generation digital skills. And this program is not only fulfills this aim, but also contributes to the society, to the development of diversity and inclusion principles within the whole ecosystem. Here I would like to say that I finished my presentation, and if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Alexandra. That was a very beautiful presentation. Really, I want to agree with you that such inclusive programs become more popular nowadays, and that is very, I think, a win-win solution both for the company and for the community. Thank you for mentioning that young people have to gain extra skills for being included into our society. And our next speaker will make a big contribution about teaching the young generation. But if we speak with people with disabilities, especially with mental disabilities, it is very important to say that this community has extra requirements, and they have. And we have to develop some early intervention programs in schools and maybe even in kindergartens. So these people with mental disabilities could be really included into our society. That is really a beautiful topic. Thank you so much. And my question is, do you think that recruiting people with disabilities is effective for the companies and may help them reach any financial sustainability? Because that is the question that we are asked every time that we come to companies with such programs, such CSR programs. So what is your point of view? What is your experience?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, from my experience, actually, these employees, younger employees of actually the students, they are really motivated, as I mentioned. And this is the main thing that actually helps them to contribute to the company's efficiency, to the company's results. And from my experience, young interns, they are actually contributing to the staff performance. So the recruitment is actually essential, I believe. And maybe in some points, these employees, they require extra skills of the staff to deal with them, and maybe they probably have the necessity to pay to them more attention well, with regard to adaptation. But still, this is a win-win project. So these people, these interns, they have the opportunity to gain experience and being developed by the company, but they actually contribute their vision of the world, and this is the point that contributes to the innovative perspectives of the company. And for such companies as IT companies, IT enterprises, it's highly important to increase this diversity within the staff and the innovation prospects. So I believe that it's really efficient to hire these people because of these points.
Okay, thank you. And what about the supported deployment? You know that many autistic people have to be supported with extra staff at the workplace. So what about this issue?
Of course, it's really so. Nevertheless, there are there are some organizations that actually help these employees, these candidates, to adapt to adapt quicker to the environment, to the business environment, and these non-profit organizations mainly, and they can help with that. And mostly, of course, I must agree that mostly companies nowadays are committed to hiring people with mental disabilities, especially with autism, of the certain forms of certain, with certain points, because it's a bit easier to adapt them. But still, the companies, they actually are ready, many companies are ready to contribute to developing these people with mental disabilities. And this is partially thanks to the rising importance of innovation. So yes, I believe it's a challenging point, the challenging issue to adapt, to help these people to adapt, but still the people with autism are quite adaptable, and they actually can contribute to the company's success.
Thank you so much. Dear expert Andrean, do you have any comments or any point of view that may differ from ours with Alexandra about effectiveness of inclusive workplaces nowadays?
I have question, but it's questions to all students. What do you think? What, in your opinion, should be done to increase level of compliance to corporate social responsibility for RANEPA? And how would you take a part in those initiatives? Because we can speak about other organization, and you 4 years work in your institute. And what about corporate social responsible in RANEPA? What do you think?
Well, personally, I think that RANEPA is trying to build this culture of corporate social responsibility, because some business institutes, for example, IBS, arranges such conferences, and actually we have some subjects concerned with sustainability and corporate social responsibility. Nevertheless, I believe that there are a lot of things that the university, the academy, still has to pay attention to. For example, some ecological institutes, some ecological departments, because I believe that the more efforts could be implemented to promote this eco culture, and enable us, the students and the teachers, professors, to contribute to this culture and do something. For example, bring in some old stuff to certain places. So I believe that there is a lack of information with this regard in RANEPA. But still, this is the point of growth, so we can work with that.
Thank you. Dear speakers, I want all of you to enable your microphones and videos and share your point about how CSR practices do affect in your institute, do affect your lifestyle and your progress in educating. Dear speakers, I can name you one by one, but please, yeah, thank you.
Personally, I believe that there is much that still has to be done, since we talk about these practices a lot during our classes, as Alexandra has already said, but this is more likely to be a contribution to our future businesses and the companies that we will work for. And there will implement some of the practices, but especially in RANEPA, I cannot highlight any programs. Like, for example, I heard about some programs which were related to ecological issues and something of that kind. But obviously, in my opinion, we don't really devote much time to it yet. But it's good that we start talking about that and even implementing some programs.
Thank you. Ilya, please enable your microphone and tell us about some sustainability practices in your institute. No?
It seems that Ilya is not really aware of them.
Elizabeth, Polina, will you please share any engagement practices in your institute?
I didn't quite get the question about engagement in the institute.
Are there any engagement programs, maybe volunteering movements or other practices that engage students not only into the education process, but also in some sustainability habits?
Well, to be honest, I'm not involved in a lot of activities like that. Maybe Artyom can tell us more, because I know that he's very active with the student union and etc. So
that's interesting. Thank you, Artyom. We are eager to hear anything about your involvement.
Hello, everyone.
We don't see you. Please enable your video, please.
One moment. Yes.
Yeah.
About engagement in our academy, yes?
Yeah.
There are some student activities, so some events which you can organize by yourself. So you can find a team which will help you to organize approximately any events for students or for even professors who are interested in your idea. So it may be some events connected with cultures, so like kaleidoscope of cultures in our academy, or something connected with science, like Gaidar Forum, or our conference, student conference, Student Gaidar. So our academy offers different opportunities to take responsibility and to implement your ideas in reality, and gives useful experience which you can gain while organizing different events.
Thank you. You should really tell us about some useful skills that volunteering gives you in an institute or in your company. Does anyone know about the profit of volunteering and its affection on your soft skills? Anyone?
Okay, hello.
Hi.
I'm Daria Vaganova, I'm one of the speakers. So I think that volunteering helps to build connections and to communicate with people, and especially on different kinds of projects. And I think it's a very good opportunity to learn how to work on different projects before you start some serious things at work or like just in your personal career.
Yeah, thank you. Andrei, thank you for this very interesting and engaging question. You now, I think, have some extra information you haven't heard of before, and I hope that this information and these opinions will be taken into consideration and some CSR programs, or maybe sustainability practices will be taken in IBS for these beautiful young ladies and gentlemen to be engaged and to practice their leadership skills. Alexander, thank you one more time for your beautiful speech. And I think that we are going to move on and will bring up a very profound topic that will make us think of the roots of our basic skills and career choices. And we've just said that early intervention in schools and even in kindergarten can affect the social impact and social effect on a child's life, yes, and especially on people with mental disabilities. But nevertheless, our teachers at schools and in institutes really affect our career choices and skills that we have and affect whether we are prepared for this grown-up life. Of course, in my opinion, teachers are the foundation of any sustainable system. So, Daria, please highlight this topic for us, and I'm going to disable microphones of everyone else and to show your presentation. I'm sorry. Daria, is it your turn? Or is it Arina's?
No, it's Arina's turn.
I'm so sorry, Arina. Then, speaking about equality, Arina, will you please continue the equality topic for us, and we will turn to Daria's profound topic later. And this is a very interesting topic because it is also one of the most popular issues in CSR practices nowadays in companies. It is about the fifth Sustainable Development Goal.
Yeah.
Irina, please.
Yeah, so Irina, thank you. My name is Irina Kragina, and my topic for today is training of female employees after a maternity leave. Next slide, please. And this goal is certainly related to, this subject is certainly related to the fifth goal of sustainable development, which is gender equality. Next, please. And in the slide, you can see my agenda. So I'm going to highlight some questions of why maternity leave usually leads to gender inequality in an organization, why that's difficult for women to return to work after a maternity leave, and how for organizations to overcome such problems. So I will name some best practices, tools, and programs. Yeah. So I would start by some really disappointing statistics. In more than half surveyed companies, there were cases of dismissal of female workers after a maternity leave. Next, please. And well, on the side of employees, only 20% of employers do really wait for their female workers after maternity leave. That means that all the others are not really likely to wait for female employees returning after a maternity leave. And what is the worst in this situation and is that all of us, the young women who want to realize themselves professionally, know that. And on the side of us, we do want to, well, realize ourselves, and women really do need to return from work. It may be because of self-realization or some financial benefits, but still it is the case to discuss. The next slide, please. And well, finally, according to labor law, female workers having a baby under 3 years old cannot be dismissed. But yeah, remembering the slide with all these dismissal statistics, the law doesn't really work in the way it should. The next thing, please. Yeah, and while looking at the difficulties after a maternity leave, for 23%, it was, well, according to these statistics, about 60% of female employees do not face any difficulties returning after maternity leave because they were always refreshing their skills or continue working. But I would really challenge these statistics. I believe that even more women face some difficulties and feel that their skills have decreased dramatically during this essential period. But even if this statistics is correct, we still have 40% of women facing some difficulties, and I believe that's a reason enough to act. The next slide, please. So yeah, and another issue to be thought about is that about 30% of female employees radically change the field of activity after their maternity leave. So they just do not return to their work and even to their specialization. The next, please. Yeah, and sometimes employers believe that after maternity leave, women became sillier, but that's, well, obviously is not true. The next thing, slide please. Yeah, according to, well, psychologists, women become even more mentally skilled because we become smarter when we possess new neural connections, and with the motherhood, especially with the first one, women possesses so many new skills that it becomes even more well, even more skilled. Yeah. The next slide, please. So, and there are obviously some difficulties which are faced by women during the maternity leave. First of all, it is some problems with the attention, but again, not because they become less smart, but because they are, well, practically torn between work and their child. Surely there are some changes in emotional background and especially values. So the young mothers just can't work 24/7 or stay at work till 10 p.m. because their priorities have changed dramatically. And of course, there is a society push. So people around them say, motherhood is happiness. You chose yourself to give a birth to that baby, so please be responsible for it. And why do you even need a babysitter? Do you want to entrust your child to another stranger? That's not good. And on the other side, these people say you have to self-realize professionally. Do you want to be what, a housewife? No, that's not right. And so women are really pushed, and they feel guilty because they don't work, and they feel guilty because they don't attract much attention to the children, and this is a great source of stress, surely. The next slide, please. And so there are some, I have highlighted some stages on which female employees may need help. It's pre-maternity leave, so-called. So we have to discuss thoroughly the career planning of female workers who is going to take a maternity leave. So how she will be trained during the maternity leave and after, and where her career is going to go. And surely maternity, during a maternity leave, there also has to be some support, so some additional payments, training, some keep in touch programs, so that woman feels that she is still needed and still appreciated at her job, even though she is not there yet. And surely many practices should be allocated to returnship, some adaptation programs, some flexible hours, because as I have already said, the women's priorities change and they can no longer work as they used to. The next slide, please. And here we may see some practices of international companies who work on this goal of sustainable development. Well, I won't go through them thoroughly, but I will highlight some common practices. So surely it's flexible time, it's some returnship adaptation programs, so some mentoring in order for female employees to, well, adapt and to remember, yeah, everything that she may forget during this period. And the next slide, please. Yeah, and also some companies provide remote working, some additional payment. So it may be additional payment if the woman gets back earlier, or for example, some additional payment for babysitters. And surely some companies provide opportunities for mothers who still have to closely be with their children. It may be a kids room or feeding room, yeah, which is provided, for example, by Moscow office of PwC. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. Thank you for your attention, and I will try to answer the questions if there are any.
Alina, thank you so much for this great overview. Really, we have a lot of pressure as women in Korea, and it is very tough to struggle with this sometimes. But and my question to you, before I think Anna has to say a lot on this topic, I'd like first to ask my question. Do you think there is still some thoughtless attitude to gender inequality in Russian organizations comparing to a global agenda? Because my own opinion is that, and in my own experience, is that in Russia, people still think that we have no any gender inequality problems, and that if you ask them, the majority will say that the fifth sustainable development goal is reached in Russia. So what do you think?
Well, unfortunately, here I have to agree with you, because I believe that, well, all the companies which are placed in Russia and really support these programs are mostly international companies with just subsidiaries in, for example, Moscow or St. Petersburg or other huge Russian cities. So, and I believe that, yes, well, we have this opinion that we don't have gender inequality, or yeah, considering maternity leave, that the women has to sit with the child and do it perfectly, and the husbands just help their wives with the child, forgetting that it's also their children as well. So yeah, sometimes this problem appear, but I believe that we are moving towards the solution, and with the globalization, such issues will be covered as well in some years.
Thank you. Anna, please, you are very welcome to share your expert opinion, because you are the most experienced in this sphere.
Yeah, thank you, Irina. Thank you, Arina. So I'm very pleased to hear this kind of topic on the student conference, because this topic is really unusual for the students, and especially for women without kids. And so I'm very glad, because I understand that it's also a little bit of my impact. So
that's great.
So I just want to add some topics just to describe the situation about the maternity leave and about the discrimination of mothers on the labor market. So what we can see now we have self-isolation, and all the countries sitting at home with their kids who are also sitting at home, with husbands who are also sitting at home, and all the country is working distantly. So, and now all the people in our country became a little bit mothers. They became a little bit stay-at-home people. So now everyone can understand what's happening when you're sitting with the kids in your apartment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think it will change the mindset not only of employees, the mindset of people, and the mindset of men, first of all, because this gender inequality in our country, we have a lot of tradition. And the tradition says that the man goes to earn money, and women sit at home, make borscht, and take care of kids. I think now the things are changing. The world is becoming more diverse, and this inequality, we don't need it anymore, because we can work intellectually and earn money with our brains, not with our muscles. And I just want to add something about the programs in Russia. My company and me, now we have around 10 times more offers from other different companies, how to work with kids at home. And yesterday we've made the webinar for Sberbank, that have a very interesting maternity program for women and for parents also. And we've made the webinar, there was around 500 people. And 2 days ago, we made the same to Deloitte. So that means that in Russian companies, there are some trendsetters who are making this policy famous. And the first, in my opinion, the first is Sberbank, because it's the biggest employer in Russia, and around 3 to 5% of women population in Russia works in Sberbank. So that's why they cannot ignore that women have children. So the things are changing, and I think that this coronavirus pandemic will force it, and so we can in 1 year see more maternity programs in human resource policy of Russian countries. Thank you, Arina. I was just really crying to hear you.
Thank you so much for this overview. Really, we've mentioned Sber several times for now, because I should mention that Sberbank really has a large majority of different programs to reach sustainable development goals. It has equality programs, it has programs for their consumers, for their employees, and etc. And that's great that our big, large-scale companies, the leaders of the market, show on their own example that these measures should be taken by other companies. If anyone has any questions to Arina, I'll be glad to ask them on your behalf if you read them in the chat. And if no, then we can move on. Can we? Yeah, I think we can. Let's return to the theme that we've mentioned earlier. Daria, I won't delay anymore your speech. So I'm disabling my video and showing your presentation. Yes, please, take your time.
Thank you very much. My name is Daria Vaganova. I am in my last year at RANIPA Institute of Business Studies, and I'm an HR consultant. My current research is focused on motivating teachers and how their well-being is a path to sustainable future and a method to run a sustainable business. Next slide, please. So there are the trends we are all aware about: lifelong learning, digitalization, globalization, and of course sustainability. But do we really do something to build a solid basis for these trends to grow in our life? Well, to be honest, I believe that we are not doing anything. Who stands at the forefront of all these trends? Teachers. And the current situation with teachers is very sad. And even if you say that motivating teachers is a luxury that educational systems can't afford, even though I don't agree with that statement, I can say, okay, let's apply it to private educational institutions. They can afford it and they're interested in it because they need retention, they need trust of employees, because they want to be confident in their business and to have their business secure. Next slide, please. So here are some goals of sustainable development that this approach can make us closer to. It's quality of education, no time wasting on that. Decent work and economic growth, it's also obvious. Reduced inequalities. We all know that teachers are considered to be one of the most important professions, but they are severely underpaid and they have enormous workload and many other problems. So it doesn't correlate like being the most important profession and having so many problems that are overseen by people who can change that. So sustainable cities and communities, it might not be obvious, but private educational institutions like language centers, art schools, sports schools, they really influence the community, especially in small cities, because I know people who taught maybe hundreds of people a foreign language, and they have so many connections. But what's most important, they connect these people between each other and they build a community. And so climate change is also one of the goals that we can reach if we provide and promote the well-being of teachers, and I'm gonna talk about it a bit later. Next slide. So what are the modern problems of teachers? I believe one of the most important is indefinite attitude. So are the teachers saints or are they sinners? Can they have their personal life? Can we stop the witch hunt when parents stalk their social media trying to find pictures in swimming suits and fire teachers for that? And what is the role of the teacher? Is he a parent or are they educators? Do we want the teachers to teach our children morality, or do we want them to teach our children languages, physics, and so on? The role is and the attitude are indefinite, and it really hinders the process of development of this profession. Because let's take an example of firefighters. Do they know how people treat them and what is the attitude of society? Yes, they have no unknown things about that. But teachers, it's completely different. Also, they do not have career development. The only thing is that they can get more difficult students, or they can go from like elementary students to advanced in terms of language studies, for example. But that's their limit, and they have no career growth, new roles, and so on. And also, especially in private educational institutions, teachers are overkilled with the amount of professional development, conferences, different master classes. They learn how to take exams like IELTS, TOEFL, and so on, but they are not developed personally. And we can agree that to be on a certain level of profession, you need to be on the same level of personal growth, like spiritually, personally, call it whatever. And the statistics show that the motivation of teachers is really dependent on their personal conditions and on their well-being. Next slide, please. So we all know that teachers deal with frequent high-volume tasks like checking essays and homework and a lot of bureaucracy. And we should voice these problems and make people aware of them and start discussing them and do research, modern research on how teachers influence children. Are parents more influential in terms of morality, habits, and so on? And also we should tend teachers' mental health, because it used to be I think that's about older teachers, that they were taught children and teenager psychology. But do they know how to help themselves? How to deal with burnout? How to deal with problematic children and problematic parents who who don't know about personal boundaries? No, and nobody cares about that. And the teachers have no work and life balance, because with that profession being considered as very important and socially important, they have to put their personal life aside or even backwards. And this is wrong, because teachers are the ones who stand in the forefront of everything. Who promotes digitalization? Teachers. Who tells children about Quizlet, Zoom, Coursera, and all the MOOCs and courses available? Teachers. My parents, even though they are very intelligent, they know nothing about this technological development in education. Mid-career workers for whom these MOOCs were developed initially know nothing about them. And things like DataCamp, Coursera, Udemy, and so on, they are used mostly by people with a degree, by young people who finished bachelor's or master's. Who can influence, please next slide, who can influence the climate change also? Teachers. Because they can turn climate activities into challenges for their children. Applying something to a group of people, like a class, is easier than just parents teaching their children to recycle and to sort the litter and so on. And it is also about digitalization and lifelong learning. Teachers with different methods can teach us how to learn, because like lifelong learning requires that people know how to learn from the very young age. And the tendency is that now the younger the children are, the more information they need to know already. So we learned programming when I was in my 5th grade. My sister is 7 years old and I already teach her programming because it's essential. And teachers have to adapt, and they are the ones who stand in the vanguard of all these changes. So we should encourage motivation through personal growth, like self-help psychology, like personal time management, not classroom management, but personal. And also to give them an opportunity to have their personal life as a primary and not as something in the background. And so teachers have more power than we think, and more power for change. And actually, if we start applying it in private institutions, we can then project it safely in state institutions, who can also afford that, believe me. So and automation helps for us here. We should also encourage less bureaucracy, using all modern technologies to have less well, paperwork for teachers, and more time they can spend on real things like teaching and encouraging and inspiring and so on. So I'm working on a course on that, all the necessary aspects that teachers need for their well-being. And so basically you can see that this is not how we are used to think about it, and that we should really think into it, and more people should be involved, because there are more than 2 million teachers in Russia. Around 300,000 of them work in private institutions. And how much research do we have on that? I could find like 5 works from 2005, 2001, and no contemporary works. So I think that's it. I'm open for the questions now.
Thank you so much. My question to you is, do you think organizations should involve teachers in spreading a sustainable lifestyle on kids? I mean, their own branded programs. So you've told us much about how teachers affect on some digital practices or maybe habits. But I'm speaking now about organizations' branded programs. And to continue that question, do you think that by releasing such projects, companies may start recruiting process beginning from school?
Yes, so I believe, yes, they should involve teachers in spreading sustainability ideas and all these better future ideas, because once, again, as I've already said, it's easier to implement something when you have a group of people. And teachers, they have all kinds of conferences and forums where they are where they become aware of modern trends and issues, and it's easier to spread these ideas through them, because I barely see parents who participate in like sustainability conferences and so on, but teachers sometimes they have to, yes, because it's part of their work. And yes, of course, it is easier, and it can help add the gamification and all the elements that make children interested in it. And then they go and tell their parents and relatives about that. Yes, we are currently working on a program of recycling. So we have a language center with like 60 groups of different levels and ages, and all of them will be asked to collect like paper, glass, and all these types of recycling materials, and they will compete who brings more, so between the groups. And the teachers are encouraged to inspire their children and their students, and they bring it home. They come and say, hey mom, I want to collect things for recycling, so don't throw away bottles and so on. And this is especially important during these isolation times, because people consume more nowadays, I believe, and they buy more packs because for longer expiration period. Yes, so it's true. And could you please repeat the second part of about recruitment?
Yes, my question, the second part of the question was, can by these programs affecting the models of behavior of the children and of their parents, can companies start the recruiting process, the process of employer brand and image construction in their heads at school, just doing these programs?
Yes, I think so. Yesterday I wrote a note about school leavers coming to a company for work experience, and of course it's all interconnected, and it's a systematic process. That's why I mentioned like lifelong learning. we need to start it from the very young age, because we can't go to a 40 years old man and say, you have to learn now. And he will be shocked because he thought his learning stopped in the university. And that's the same with recruitment. Of course, if we start at the beginning and it grows and people build mindfulness and awareness, and of course, it will all become a flow.
Okay, thank you. Dear experts, Andrei, Anna, you as teachers, what's your point of view on Daria's presentation and her points? Please share.
So, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you, Daria, for your presentation. So I'm not a school teacher, but anyway, I'm teaching adults for a very long time, not only students, but the top managers of corporations. So that everything that you already told, I saw in my experience. And first of all, I think that the teacher needs to learn more than anyone else. And I think that the motivation why you choose this job, why you're working as a teacher, is the most important things. And the best teacher, to become a best teacher, so you need to have a very strong motivation to teach and to help other people. And this is not about the education, it's about your own values. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
And Anna, I wanted to say also, and that is also one of the problems with how we perceive teachers. We think that they come into profession being motivated, being selfless, and that they do not need more motivation. Yes, because they are already, and so that's why everyone neglects their problems and their mental health, because like you're the teacher, it's your calling. And it's also important in terms of gender equality, because I believe around 80% of teachers in Russia are women. And they sometimes neglect their own children because of 30 children they have in class and they need to take care of.
So we can make a conclusion that this is the most pressured type of our audience in Russia. They are women, they have a calling, and they have a lot of requirements from school, government, and from parents. Okay, Daria, thank you so much. Andrei, please. Andrei, do you have any question or a comment maybe?
Yes, I have a comment. If we speak about teacher, I think we must speak about kids, because kids now, it's very different kids compared with my kids, with kids 20, 10 or 30 years ago. And new kids and new requirement to teachers for new kids. And I think if we speak about training of teacher, training, it's good, but it is only a small party of performance, because you know that the result of training it's only 10%, maybe 15%, and other it's ecosystems in the school, ecosystems in our school, what atmosphere about teachers, about school. I think it's more significant than only training, because only training don't solve the problem our school. It's my opinion.
I agree with you. I also mentioned that that's why we should fix the attitude and the role of teachers, because parents nowadays think like teachers will fix it, they can take care of it. I don't need to take like bring up my children and encourage them to learn new things. Yes, and so they take too much on themselves, teachers. Yes, so we should help them because this is a burden for them, and it makes them not teachers. It makes them some like people who just execute some things, and that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. We're a little bit out of timing, but nevertheless, we have very interesting topics forward. And another relevant topic in the period of self-isolation, the need for which we all feel right now, and that is digitalization of all aspects of our life. So our following two speakers will tell us how digital services will affect HR processes and already are affecting maybe. I'm going to give the word to Kazantseva Marina. Marina, please, are you ready? Yes, you are. I see you, and I'm going to share your presentation, and I will ask to disable everyone else's microphones. Okay. Marina, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Marina Kazantseva. I'm the second year student of IBS RANEPA, and now I will tell you about what benefits can be derived from digital recruitment. So without further ado, let's get started. The next slide, please. The process of digital recruitment can be defined as a way of leveraging technology to the source, assess, attract, select, and recruit candidates for open positions. In fact, almost 4.4 billion people use the internet, whether it's reading the news, connecting with friends, shopping, or booking their holiday. The World Wide Web has revolutionized our lives. So it isn't a surprise that job hunting is no exception. What does it mean for you as an employer? Simple, you need to be online. Digital recruitment goes far beyond posting vacancies on online job boards and social media. Rather, it touches on a whole host of digital tools and strategies that span the entire recruitment process from start to finish. Such tactics include digital job board advertising, posting on career websites, mobile recruiting, utilizing online assessments, and social recruiting. The most successful employers understand that companies are only as good as the people they hire. Not so long ago, hiring looked very different from it does now today. While the days of paper CVs are definitely over in most industries, there are still many employers who don't fully understand how digital recruitment can help them and what its main benefits are. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Retaining and recruiting employees is a major concern for most of the employers these days. Digital recruitment can make the overall process of recruiting much easier. It is because it is highly useful for online recruiters to search employee profile, assess them for experience and skills, and send them a quick response asking them for a chat or about a novel opportunity. It is an efficient and cost-effective solution that saves a lot of time. Further, it eradicates all hassles of traveling distances within their recruitment process. It is an excellent solution that allows recruiters to schedule and conduct video-based interview sessions online. It creates flexibility for candidates to take an interview at any place and any time. Further, it helps to hire managers as well as employees to work at their comfort and deliver an enhanced experience to the interviews as well as candidates. Next slide, please. More job seekers than ever before can be found on various digital channels, such as online job portals and social media. Many of the same digital channels are also frequented by passive talent who aren't actively job seeking, but may be willing to change their job if a good career opportunity came up. In fact, the vast majority of passive candidates are open to new job opportunities, according to hiring statistics, especially when they offer room for professional development, better work-life balance, or higher compensation. By advertising jobs online and contacting potential job candidates on social media, employers can effectively increase their talent pools without spending money on costly recruitment schemes or traditional advertising, both of which are becoming increasingly irrelevant in today's digital era. According to statistics, 73% of 18 to 34 years olds found their last job through a social network, and it's very likely the number will only increase as more millennials and the members of Generation Z enter the workforce. It won't be long before employers who fail to take advantage of the digital channels won't be able to compete and will fade into irrelevance. Next slide, please. A strong employer brand plays a critical role in attracting and retaining top talent in a competitive marketplace. Digitizing the recruitment process will strengthen your online brand visibility and help expand your potential reach, as well as ensure the candidate experience is a positive one from their very first interaction with your organization. The next slide, please. In the past, the recruitment process started with a paper CV and cover letter and ended with a personal interview. Today, the CV is the sum of the candidate's online activity, and job interviews increasingly often happen remotely, using modern technology such as video interviewing. In this environment, historical metrics such as past employment and education are much less valuable than they were just 10 years ago. While their value will never reach zero, the focus today is on real-time and predictive metrics, which help employers understand the personality of candidates, their strengths, weaknesses, and motivation without asking them directly. Data is also providing employers with deep insights into the effectiveness of their existing recruitment strategies, and it also enabling them to develop future strategies based on this valuable information. Next slide, please. So summarizing, the world has changed radically over the last decade, but the recruiting practices of many employers have remained the same. To hire the best people today, employers can no longer afford to ignore the ever-growing digital landscape and all the opportunity it brings. They must digitize their recruitment strategies and use data and analytics to obtain rich insights into candidates. Otherwise, they risk losing access to a talented workforce. Thank you so much for your attention.
Marina, thank you so much. And without postponing, I want Artem Tolkunov to deepen this topic and tell us about some apocalyptic scenarios of digital algorithms in HR. Artem, please take your time.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Artem Tolkunov, and I'm going to speak about digitalization of staff performance assessments in large companies. As many people know, the 21st century has already entered history as the age of digital technologies, and such a process as digitalization has been actively covering new and new areas of life for the past 5-7 years. This process didn't leave without attention business activity, including such a process as evaluating the performance of personnel, especially in large international companies. But more on that later. Next slide, please. Before moving on, let me briefly remind you that the assessment of personnel performance in a company is a complex system for identifying employee characteristics, which is aimed at helping the company's manager in making managerial decisions to increase the performance of subordinates. Next slide, please. Most often in companies, evaluation is based around various performance indicators that are easy to measure and compare. However, from my point of view, the assessment should not be based solely on the results of the activity. Otherwise, if there are any difficulties in the work of any employee or team, or there is a stagnation in the results, we're unlikely to be able to understand what the specific reasons are and spend a lot of time and resources on finding and selecting a solution. Next slide, please. A little further, but still not as effectively advanced, is the 360 degrees assessment. When using these methods, this tool, we get more reliable and objective information because more people are involved in the process of assessment. So However, this may sometimes not be enough. Next slide, please. There are a number of companies in the business software markets that have been working for a long time to create various software for optimizing business processes, both large and small companies. In once see clearly occupy the leading positions. Both companies have products related to evaluating staff performance, but so far, in my opinion, they are quite strong, poorly adapted, not user-friendly. Moreover, the emphasis is again mainly on the KPI assessment, on the automated, and 360 degrees assessment and a psychological test. Also, some packages include an employee profile, but I think you can make an even more effective system. This is what I write about in my final qualification work, touching on the assessment of the activities of not only ordinary staff, but also creative employees whose work process consists in creativity and generating ideas. Next slide, please. Thank you. The idea is quite simple and is based, among other things, on existing tools for evaluating staff performance, the competence model, the employee's personality profile, and the 360-degree assessment. But there is one important clarification. The data is recorded daily and updated hourly. You may ask, how does this happen? The trainable neural network is connected to various business processes that have already been brought into the digital space. Accordingly, a single system, single ecosystem of business processes is created, and reports on which are recorded and sent for processing to the head center. Moreover, the ecosystem is linked to the competence model, which allows you to track their application and development in the work process and make individual development and training plans based on data that the head center receives. Next slide, please.
Artyom?
Thank you. As for the creative stuff, everything is much more complicated here because the activity is difficult to measure. This is why the evaluation period is more flexible. It depends on the company's specialization and the tasks facing the evaluated employees. Evaluation of ideas and proposals is made on the platform, which is connected to investors and other partner companies that vote for a particular idea. Moreover, when an idea is published and registered on this platform, it is automatically included in the patent registry. So the idea is simple, and it is taken from crowdfunding platforms and something like that. Next slide, please.
Okay, Artyom, this is your question to the audience to discuss. And I'll return to this, but meanwhile, we have a little interaction to do. I will ask everyone, every speaker and our experts to enable your videos, because we are asked to make a selfie for the IBS site and social networks. And I was really trying to do this way, like an epic selfie, but and now I understand that I'm doing not the right way. I have to do it some digital way. So please, everyone, I'd like to ask you to enable your videos. Dear speakers, that will not take us very long. Anyone else, please? I will just take the print screen and then Okay, show peace. Some more people. Yeah, smile. One more time. Okay, thank you so much. And now we can continue. Just a second. Artyom, please announce your question. What was it? And we'll discuss it.
Do the digitalization algorithms, will the digitalization algorithms replace HRs from their places in the companies? And if not, what skills and competencies should the new HRs require?
Yeah, that is a good question. Dear speakers, what do you think? What is the scenario that a digital algorithm will win, and there will be no any place for humans in human resources, or just the opposite? We'd like to hear any of your opinions and point of views.
Well, I'll try to state my point with regard to this. I believe that algorithms, they can really replace the monotonous functions of HR specialists. For example, some pre-selection process in recruitment, or screening of CVs, and probably first telephone interviews to get in touch with the candidates. But still, the competencies of HR specialists, such as communication skills, and actually training and development programs are setting up, and adaptation skills, they and the specific knowledge that HR specialists have, won't be replaced as soon as some people and some experts actually predict. I believe that human skills, if we can name them so, are really specific, and the artificial intelligence still is far from keeping up to it.
Thank you. Marina, you are the first speaker of this process. What do you think? What are your scenario? What is the scenario you believe in?
Actually, I absolutely agree with Alexandra. And there is no doubt that the role of the HR professional has changed dramatically along with the workforce and economy. And evolution will continue as machines and technology replace tasks once performed by humans. But that doesn't make HR specialists any less important. And what is more, tomorrow's HR leaders will need to be bigger, broader thinkers, and will have to be nimble enough to deal with an increasingly agile and restless workforce. And technology is freeing up HR to take on bigger picture matters, making the field more exciting, more demanding, and perhaps more competitive as well. What is more, technology will help HR managers to focus more on business strategy and employee career paths. And I also suppose that thousands of new HR jobs will be created in the next decade, but competition for these positions is likely to be strong.
Okay, thank you. Daria, and I have a question for you too. Do you think that this process of digitalization will also affect the education process, and what are the scenarios here?
So first, I want to say that our fears of being replaced by artificial intelligence are a bit unfounded, because, for example, in France, for the last 15 years, the internet has destroyed 500,000 jobs, but it created 1.2 million jobs. So new jobs emerge, and I think that even if robots will replace us in frequent high volume tasks like checking essays, conducting simple interviews for the lowest positions, we can move on to more complicated novel tasks that artificial intelligence is not capable of performing. We can, in education, teaching is not only about giving information. We can read it on the internet, but really teaching and giving advice and like developing skills for life. It's not about robots and artificial intelligence. So we can just have more time for more interesting and more like profitable tasks.
Okay, thank you, Artem. And you, as the topic starter and the question starter, what do you think? What is your scenario of artificial intelligence vs human intelligence?
I think that it is our future, so we can see that this trend is developing, new programs appear, and new even vacancies in different companies appear. So we see that HR specialists now become more digital. They use new tools connected with different programs, such as VCV, for example, which has already mentioned Marina, and also there are some tools which should be developed in business processes, especially in HR, and I think that it is our future, and it will help us to optimize our business processes and help us to cut costs and save our time.
Okay, thank you so much. I really enjoy talking to you and hearing your different points of view. To close the theme of digitalization, I am pleased to pass the baton to our expert, Anna Ziryanova, who will tell us what skills are likely to save our value as humans and as employees in post-COVID era. Anna, please, I ask everyone to disable your microphones and videos, and mine too. And I'm going to share your presentation. And yes, please.
Dear colleagues, hi. My coronavirus pandemic and coronavirus meetings beginning right now, because I'm working as a human resource director, and my company has a meeting with each production unit to be involved in this situation and to know what can we do to help each other in this real critical situation for business. So first of all, I'd like to start with a little bit of actual information about what's going on today, because the pandemic of coronavirus is dramatically changing the world, and the number of people died changing every day. And as a human resource director, now I'm involved in all of these metrics and information. And first of all, I want to say to you that if you want to know the correct information about the COVID, you need to read only medical reports and not to listen any bloggers. And so now it's our new reality, and we need to mention it. All of businesses all over the world are now trying to discussing and trying to understand what they're going to do and how they're going to live after this pandemic. Because as I already said, it will change the world and the business landscape dramatically. Yesterday I was listening the conversation between three big businessmen, very rich people, and they were thinking about how their businesses will change. after this pandemic. So that's what I want to talk to you today, because I think we cannot ignore the pandemic consequences in the new world. And it will affect also the sustainability management. It will force it, or maybe not. No one knows what's going to happen, because during the period, the previous crisis that happened after the Crimea, we had an opportunity to make our own internal production. After the crisis in 2008, 2009, we also had a lot of opportunities. What opportunities we're going to have after this crisis, nobody knows. But I'm reading a lot of different reports from McKinsey company. Everyone tried to forecast what's going to happen. So here is the report from Deutsche Bank. They made this report couple of weeks ago, and how the COVID will impact the business. The first, it will affect on revenue, expenses, and earnings. As you know, now a lot of small business cannot earn money. We have expenses, but we don't have income. We don't have revenue, because everything is shut down. The next is capital allocation, funding, liquidity, hedging position. The supply chain will also ruin, because the suppliers, distributors, and customers will change their business model. But the one thing I want to pay your attention on is that employee health, relation, and management will also change after the pandemic. And that's not only me speaking and thinking about it. Lots of different investigators and like Deutsche Bank, like McKinsey company, also talking about that. Next slide, please. So the COVID will for sure affect a lot on employee health, relations, and management. And what we was talking about today, about wealth management, diversity, relations, digitalization, everything I think will be in our future. Can you make the next slide, please? So in the end of our discussion of this section, I just want to tell you about what should we do to become the better, to improve ourselves. What soft skills we'll need for the post-COVID life, because no one knows how the business will change and how the landscape will change. It will change for sure, but no one knows how. But when we live in such a transformational period, and no one knows how the life will go after the COVID, the main strategy is to invest in yourself, to invest in your health, and to invest in your education and personal development. So what skills for post-COVID life we need for sure? First of all, digital skills and digital mindset. When I say that the digital mindset is not the digital technology. Digital mindset goes from people, goes from employees. It's not going for technology. So when we're gonna make the digital company to build the digital HR procedures, first of all, we need to change the mindset of our employees and managers, not to buy SAP success factors. We need to change the mindset. The second point, the ability to work distantly. I'm working distantly for a very long time, for the last 6 years, and it's not a problem for me. But now for last 4 weeks, I'm working in the office like a human resource director. So, and I can see the differences in mindset, that people who never work distantly, they cannot work distantly now. And it's really very difficult for them, and they need not only to change their procedures, they also need to change their mindset and to have digital skills. So the ability to work distantly, it's not only about the digital skills, it's also about planning, it's also about delegation, it's also about how you balance between your work and your private life. So the mindfulness and self-care, I think, will be one of the top skills for the future people, because when you work at home, when you work distantly, you can care about you. You, the employer can give you just information, but to use this information to take care of yourself, to prevent your personal burnout, it's your own business and your own responsibility. So mindfulness and self-care is not only employees. Coronavirus immunity, they also will be the employees of personal branding. What are future employees and your future customers? So the ability to learn is the next point. I think that the conception of lifelong learning that is a trend now in education and development is now becoming very useful as for our personal soft skills. The ability to learn, the ability to find information, the ability to find knowledge and to produce knowledge. And now will become one of the most, one of the top skills for the employees of the future. So the change management skills. We are living in a world that's changing dramatically and very quickly. So if you have any skills and can manage these changings, it also is very good. The next point is tolerance and ethical behavior. Yesterday on the conference, the top manager of Sibur, the top manager of A1 company, and the top manager of Почта России, they were talking about the new ethical issues for business. How business will change, because everyone can work distantly. What should we do with the people who cannot? And so they told that it was a very interesting issue. They told that companies, it's no longer just like a business organization. They function also like a social organization. So one of the purposes of business to create labor places, to employ people just to make them employed, because it's a social role of big business in our country. Because if business will become only business efficiently, we'll think only about the KPIs like revenue and costs. We need to reduce the amount of employees. We need to fire people, but it's not good for social situation in our country. So that's why, for example, in Sberbank, so much people is working. They can be more effective if we have only business KPIs, but they cannot, because it's one of the largest employer in our country. So they need to save workplaces because people need to earn money. So that's one of ethical issues that was discussed yesterday, but by really famous businessman, and I think it will happen in some future. So the next is tolerance. While we are working from home, it doesn't matter anymore what type of skin, what color of skin, and woman you are, or man, it doesn't matter, female or male, and what's your age. Only your skills and your expertise is now important. And in the end, my favorite issue, that communication skills and emotional intelligence will also be very useful for post-COVID life. Because when you communicate with your colleagues and society distantly through Zoom, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't matter how, you need to be more emotionally developed to make people understand you. Because it's very difficult, for example, to make an interview through Zoom. I was making interview with top managers for a very long time, and I never did it through web camera because it's useless. You need to see person, you need to have a contact between two of you. So it's one of the main points of effective interview. But now I cannot do that. And I understand and realized last week how much emotional power I need to put into the web camera to make my interview, to make the candidate to open and to get in touch with him, to get in contact with him. So that's why the communication skills means not only presentation skills, it means also to communicate with pictures, to communicate with music, to communicate with through any digital how to say it, so like Zoom, WhatsApp, so messengers. You need to write well, you need to make your thoughts to transform it in text and pictures. And it's very important skill because in future life we'll talk to each other, we'll spend for it not so much time like today. And this is just like my opinion, what's gonna happen. And I made this from different sources, from McKinsey reports, Deutsche Bank reports, other companies' reports, from conferences of business when the CEO of big companies are talking about what's going to happen tomorrow. So, but 12 years ago, one very wise man already told how it will be called. Can you make the next slide, please? My students know that it's my favorite conception, and it's called intellectual entrepreneurship. Each person in future will have something to sell to other people and to employees. And this intellectual entrepreneurship, I think, will become our next future. And this the skills that we need to develop to become the better variation of yourself. I think that's it, and I need to go to our next COVID meeting. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for this valuable input. I think you can go, because we'll discuss without you your points. But it was really a pleasure to hear your presentation. Thank you so much one more time. Dear colleagues, do you have any comments or maybe some extra points of view on these future skills we need? Because as far as I can make a conclusion of Anna's presentation, the COVID-19 crisis will force us to be more fast in those changes that were predicted several years ago. That Itzhak Adizes always told that you have to be flexible, and that change management should be the main process in your businesses and in your organizations. And that intellectual entrepreneurship, I like that term very much, Anna. Thank you so much for this. And that the main thing that humans will be up to is making content, and that will be the main skill of ours in future. And that is great that now we can see that really those predictions were true, And these unsustainable circumstances force us to become more sustainable in a short-term period and not some decades that we thought we had. But now we see that we don't have those years. So we have to change right now and to adapt to this not only climate change, but all the environment change that we now can see. I think we had a great session, and I want to thank all of our speakers. I think you made it great. It was a big pleasure for me to discuss these points, sustainable development goals, and I hope that every one of you will really manage to answer the question that I asked first during this session, and I asked Ilya what sustainable practices does he have in his life, and I hope that every one of you will now conclude that sustainability is not only for organizations and governments, it is also for everyone, for each individual, and that you have to invent your own sustainability strategy for yourself. And I hope that our presentations helped you to have some system, and Anna's input was really very valuable. And now I think you have the strategy you can use, Anna's. So thank you so much, Anna, Andrei. If you have anything to conclude, that would be great. And if no, then we can stop, I think.
Irina, I think it was the perfect conclusion of this section. Thank you very much. But I need to go.
Okay, I see that everyone has to go to the main conference. So thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye. It was really big pleasure. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.